Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be introducing you to filters and effects in Photoshop. Filters will change the visual style and may even distort whatever layer we're applying that to in Photoshop, whereas the effects panel is much simpler kind of settings, things like changing the colors, applying different gradients, maybe even applying outlines. I'm going to show you a couple of those, but there's many that I could go through, and we're obviously going to go through some in the final video. So let's go into my images folder. Let's bring that back. I'm going to open up that group and let's change all the layer modes back to normal. So we've just got two standard images. And what I'm going to do on image 1, which is my big stripy image, I'm going to go up to the filter menu at the very top of my screen. And we're interested in these options here. These options will allow us to do a whole number of things. So if we go to blur, for example, we could go to motion blur, and that will naturally blur our image, and we can use this slider to increase the strength of that. I can go back to filter and distort, and actually I've never played about with ripple, but I can guess what it will be. Yep, when we click OK, it adds a ripple to my image. Control Z to undo that. One of the ones we'll be using is the Spherize Distort filter, and I'll show you that when we actually get to the final project video. We can go to Stylize, and we can do things like find edges, which will find all the outlines, a whole number of things, but filters will drastically change our image, and you may be familiar with some of these from kind of like online apps and what have you. Now, if I go down to my bottom right-hand toolbar, you'll see there's a little icon that says FX, and this is our effects panel. When I click on that, we've got several different options. One of them is color overlay, which I use rather frequently, and this allows me to change the color of my layer. So if I actually go to normal, which is how you'll probably be seeing it for the first time, it simply layers color over that object. So I can click and change this to red, click OK. I can use the opacity slider to change how much that's affecting my image. Or I can change the blending mode, which is identical to our layers modes that we went through earlier. I can maybe change it to overlay. I could change it to color. I could change it to, usually difference is quite funky. There we go. I can go to effects and apply a gradient overlay, which is practically the same thing, but I've now got gradients instead of colors, and I can apply them to my scene. Very good if you're creating concept art and you're wanting a monochromatic color scheme. Really useful. We've got funkier stuff like outer glow, which when that pops up literally just adds a glow all the way around the outside of your image. You see I'm really just kind of playing around with these sliders. There's nothing to be afraid of here. If you mess something up or you don't like it, you just click cancel and start again. Real straightforward. So don't be hesitant to play around with all these sliders. Get stuck in there. I can change the spread, I can change the size of the glow, I can do a whole range of things there. Now the way that we'll be using these is we'll be using effects and filters to change how our textures appear and interact with one another, and most importantly interact with our paint when we do apply it. So you will actually use these quite frequently. But there's a very brief introduction to filters and effects in Photoshop.